Good evening and welcome to the Money Show. This is your trusted destination for investor education, financial awareness and smarter money decisions. That's right. In today's fast-changing world, managing money is no longer optional. It is essential. From rising expenses and changing lifestyles to market volatility and digital investing, every individual today faces one important question. How do I make my money work smarter for my future? That's right. And that is exactly what this show is here to help you understand. I am Kavita Thapliyal and today, a very important topic. India's health insurance challenge isn't claims approval, it's claims experience. That's right. Health insurance is ultimately tested at only one moment, when a customer makes a claim. Now, for years, discussions around health insurance have focused on metrics such as claim settlement ratios, turnaround times, and premium growth. While these indicators matter, they do not fully capture what policyholders actually experience when they need the medical care. Now, the real challenge lies in the claims journey itself. A customer facing hospitalization is often dealing with medical uncertainty, financial stress, and administrative complexity at the same time. Now, in such circumstance, even a claim that is eventually approved can leave a negative impression if the process involves unclear communication, repeated paperwork, long waiting periods, or confusion around coverage. Now, this is particularly visible in reimbursement-based claims, where customers must arrange funds upfront, collect documents, coordinate with the hospitals and insurers, and obviously wait for the settlement. Now, the financial burden may be temporary, but the anxiety created during the treatment is very real. The issue becomes more pronounced when claims are partially approved or rejected. Customers are often less frustrated by the decision itself than by the absence of clear explanations. A rejection that lacks transparency can erode trust far more quickly than a delayed payment. So, at this time, expectations are changing. Consumers increasingly expect healthcare financing to work with the same simplicity and visibility they experience in banking, e-commerce, and maybe digital payments. Now, they want real-time updates, predictable processes, minimal paperwork, and clarity on what is and what is not covered. So, the next phase of health insurance evolution will therefore be defined not only by how many claims are settled, but by how effortlessly customers move through the process. The winner in the market will be insurers that reduce friction, improve communication, digitize claim tracking, and shift administrative burdens away from patients. An industry built on trust, the quality of the claims experience may become just as important as the claim outcome itself. So let's discuss more on this. With me, I have Amit Chhabra from PolicyBazaar, Mahavir Chopra of beshak.org. Guys, good evening and welcome to this very interesting discussion today. And Mahavir, I'll come to you first because we've been talking about this topic forever on the show and off the show. So in this entire tug of war, Mahavir, between claims and the process, can we say that the debate has now moved away from will my claim be paid to how painful will the process be, or we are still struggling with the former? What is your view?
Yeah, I think to a large extent what you're saying is right. It is about how an insurer is managing rejections today, right? I also went through the report that you shared before this video started. And what I've seen is that the larger amount of problem that customers are facing is, and what we see ourselves when we are running a forum, we are running a community, is that basically people are not happy with how rejections are happening. They want the rejections to be more empathetic. They want the rejections to be explained well. They want people who are dealing with them from the insurance company side to be more humane and explain things. Right now, people are feeling cheated. Basically, whenever claim rejection happens, 80%, 90% of the times when I review a claim rejection or my team reviews the claim rejection, there is a very high chance that the rejections was actually correct, and around 10-20% of the rejections are actually wrong, right? But the way it has been explained, the details that have been given, the one-line answer or the legal jargon that has been put in the communication, even when you call a call center, the call center guy only repeats back whatever is written in the PDF rejection document. is what actually makes a customer very frustrated. And that's what leads to a lot of angst and basically feeling cheated. And that's where the trust is getting eroded between an insurer and a customer. Kavita.
All right. Yeah. But then there are more details, which I think Amit can really help us out. Amit, what is the highlight of this entire report that PolicyBazaar has come up with? And why is there still a large gap between cashless and reimbursement experiences? Amit, you might want to start with that.
Sure. So I think, Kavita, one thing I would say, industry has really moved towards cashless now. We are seeing that in the top cities, the proportion of claims which go cashless is as high as 80-85% as well. So increasingly, what we're seeing is more and more people are moving towards the cashless treatment. However, reimbursement may happen in a few cases. It happens if you go to a hospital which is not within the network. It may happen also because the customer at times may not want to wait for an approval to come, or the insurance company may have told the consumer that they need time to establish the claim, so please come for reimbursement. These are typically the reasons why a consumer comes for a reimbursement claim. The reason the experience is not great at the time of reimbursement is, one, a consumer is already a bit distraught because the consumer had to pay from his or her own pocket. So there is already a bit of negative sentiment in place. Secondly, the moment it comes to reimbursement claims, the consumer has to do a lot of running around in terms of filling up some forms, sending all of the documents to an insurance company, by a courier. All of these are fairly cumbersome processes. You have to go to the hospital, get some indoor case papers, courier it all back to the insurance company. Historically, all of these have been, tough processes, and somebody who's just come out of hospitalization, asking them to do all of that, people are bound to not be happy. However, that said, I think, all is not lost. I think things have also really started to move now. So I'll give you some examples. Now, for a reimbursement claim, most insurers now accept digital documents as well. So instead of, sending a courier out to an insurance company, you can today, for example, go to the PolicyBazaar app. On our app itself, you can upload documents and send those documents directly to us, and they directly go to the insurance company via an online integration. And you don't really need to do all of those manual work which was being done earlier. What we see today in the report is a reflection of, of the entire of last year. Things have really started to move now. But yeah, that said, there is a long way to go before the claims experience becomes seamless. I think just to reiterate on your point that you said earlier, today, out of total health insurance claims that are
Right.
that the consumer goes through in the industry,
Right.
17% people, so 1 out of 7 people are not happy with the experience. That is something that
my question is very simple. My question is very simple, Mahavir. Why not the same swiftness and quickness when you are insuring a policy? Can we say insurance underwriting too late during claims instead of, when it's at the policy purchase phase? I think you're on mute. Yeah. Okay. Go on.
If there is due diligence carried out really well at the time of basically buying the policy, which is basically missing a lot of times, insurers basically show a lot of hurry in basically issuing the policy. The entire sales system that is there today, which the insurance companies use, is hurriedly issuing policies, in my view. And not in all cases, but we see it happening a lot today. Is one of the largest reasons why customers face this issue. They are not aware of the terms and conditions, or they have not filled the proposal form correctly, declared things correctly at the time of purchasing the policy, and the insurer has not basically taken a lot of due diligence in understanding these things from the customer. The problem is that a lot of times when the claim comes, we see that the entire burden of basically declaring is put on the customer, that aapne ye nahi bataya, aapne wo nahi bataya. But if I look at it from a complete contrast, at the time of purchase, the insurer is also not taking that kind of effort to ensure that these things are understood before the policy is sold. I'll give you a very simple example. A customer says that an hospitalization has been rejected because it was unnecessary. The hospital has basically asked a customer to get hospitalized. The insurer says that the hospitalization is unnecessary. If you look at this case and you zoom out of this case, why would a customer ever go and get hospitalized if it is necessary or if it is unnecessary, right? The whole confusion starts when an insurer has not done a due diligence properly, and they feel that the customer's profile is so bad that he would have actually wanted to commit a fraud, right? All these things are examples of saying that if an insurer, sorry, does proper diligence, due diligence at the time of helping the customer buy the policy, making him aware, taking his details properly, do all kind of integrations to ensure that you know the customer's profile, then issue the policy. Then at the time of claims, you don't put the burden on the customer saying that, you know what, you did not mention this, you did not mention that. That, according to me, is one of the major reasons why insurance is the amount of information and the amount of social media angst that we see today about insurance comes from there actually.
Now Amit, the question over here is, why aren't the hospitals and the insurers aligned with each other? They both are there to give service to the customer, to the policy holder. Why can't we see a straightforward alignment? Also, Amit, customers want improvement over here, definitely. But what are the recommendations to the industry that's also come out in this report, if you can highlight that?
Sure. See, just answering your first question, Kavita, see, there is, while they are aligned somewhat, right, in the sense that they work together, they have contracts amongst each other, but the reality is the nature of the relationship is such that there is bound to be a bit of conflict. One is a payer and second is a payee. Now, for a hospital, they would want to obviously, they would want more bills because, that's income for them. And an insurance company will want as less bills as possible because that's an expense for them. So all I'm saying is there is a bit of conflict which is built into this relationship. The only way it can be solved is by ensuring that the consumer does the right thing. Or when the policy is sold, to Mahavir's point, I think I agree, a lot of times consumers aren't even aware of what they've declared. Have they declared a pre-existing disease or not? Do they understand the policy benefits or not? Actually, at this point, I want to just take a step back and look at why claims get rejected. Claims can only get rejected because of three reasons. First is if a customer is doing an out-and-out fraud. I wasn't hospitalized, I didn't want to get hospitalized, but I'm committing a fraud. There are zero real consumers who ever do fraud of this kind. There are only syndicates or people, criminals who do this kind of fraud. So we should leave that aside. A real consumer will never face this issue. The second kind of cancellation that happens is because of policy terms and conditions, which means my policy had a waiting period, but I didn't know that there was a waiting period, or I was not informed at the time of sale, or my policy had a room rent limitation and I was not informed at the time of sale. This is a responsibility of the seller, the person who sold the policy, and the responsibility of the customer both. That is where I think the industry really needs to come together. That at the time of sale, everything is informed to the customer upfront. If you have any disease, you must inform it. If there is a waiting period in the policy, that must be informed to the consumer. And the third is non-disclosure, which means a consumer not declaring a past medical history. So let's say I am a diabetic, but if I don't inform the insurance company that I have diabetes at the time of buying a policy, then yeah, insurance company is bound to reject my claim because it's a legal contract after all, right? So these are only the three reasons. So if a consumer and the person who's selling an insurance policy, they are both careful enough at the time of sale, then your claim cannot be rejected. So, and it's as simple as that. Just that buying an insurance policy, a health insurance policy, is a serious matter. So one has to get involved, do research, do your due diligence before you buy. Gone are the days when somebody would come to my home, take a check from me and give me a...
Absolutely. But this is also a case of lack of literacy. Mahavir, we've been talking about this since a very long time, but now looking at all of these things and, seeing all the scenarios and cases in front of us, are we looking at India being too focused on insurance penetration without having any literacy on it? Okay. Are we saying that, has the health insurance industry become a victim of its own success? Millions of claims settled over here, but public trust still remains low?
Products are getting more and more complex by the day, meaning if you see the kind of features that are getting introduced regularly with insurance plans, we grapple with it every day because we run a research platform also. It is very difficult for a customer to be able to understand all this on its own. And there is no real mechanism being created for a customer to be able to explain this or get understood well, right? The agent network is the same, the systems are the same, but products are getting more complex and the customer is supposed to understand these features by his own, which is becoming very, very difficult. So awareness bit, which you are mentioning, I think either the products will have to get more simplified, on one side, if that is not possible and the insurers want to compete with each other with more complex, more detailed, comprehensive products, then there has to be mechanisms by which these products can be explained very well with their fine print, which is currently, I think it is missing. And the whole burden currently is with having a good expert on your side who can actually help you do that. If you don't do that and you are doing an over the counter purchase or you're doing an online purchase on your own, there's a very good chance you would miss a lot of things on your own.
Many aspects left to be discussed in this particular discussion. We really have to figure out that what's going to be the future of health insurance and what's going to take away the pie over here. Are we talking about cheaper premiums or better claims experience? And also what has happened to claims via reimbursement process? A lot more coming up after this break.